With the way that Pokemon have been releasing deluxe battle decks, I think it's truly impossible to predict where Pokemon is going to go with their deluxe battle deck line. Admittedly, I've tried and I have been disappointed for almost all of these drops, but I do want to I want to keep my fingers crossed and be hopeful that the next round is going to be great, and I want to make some suggestions on what they could be, while also kind of airing out my grievances on my issues with the product line thus far. I'm Jet from inthirdperson.com. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we're going to try our best to speculate on what the next League battle decks are going to be, but this is me primarily wishful thinking for what I would like these to be. The last League battle decks we got were in August, and those were of Koraidon and Miraidon. And based on past precedent, the next drop is going to happen in the spring of 2025. So most likely around March, that's when we got the Ninetales and Zapdos decks. And Pokemon doesn't really stray too far from their release dates for any of their product lines. So we're likely going to see the next ones in and around March of 2025. Here's a look at all of the previous deluxe battle decks, and I want to use this as an opportunity to kind of say my piece on deluxe battle decks. And I love the idea of having a cheaper competitive option that's kind of in between in terms of price and power level between like your level 1 EX decks and your level 3 deluxe battle deck. But I just haven't been a fan of the archetypes they have chosen to represent this product line. I think Meowscarada was the closest to being the ideal pick. I do have some issues with how they built it. No double turbo energy is really annoying, but that's the type of archetype, and I think they could even do better than that. But Meowscarada was okay as a deluxe battle deck line. It's something that's on the fringes of competitive viability. It's seen a couple of day 2s, and I think either a top 16 or a top 32 finish at one point. I don't necessarily think Meowscarada is at that level now, but for a deck in this product line to be able to hit those heights, I think is where you want to go, if not higher. I think there are enough great Pokemon TCG deck archetypes that could be even stronger than Meowscarada EX that could fit this spot. And that's kind of my frustration with it, is that Pokemon have kind of chosen weaker archetypes when they have a bunch of strong archetypes that could fit this spot. Like Quaquaval EX is not really being played at all. We've seen a couple of players toy around with sort of control variants where you use that sort of hit and run attack and then put in a wall Pokemon, but it's not that great. Ninetales EX is just a straight up bad deck archetype, and there's no way around fixing that to make it give it any sort of competitive viability. What came after that, Zapdos, is weird. Like at most that's a one of tech card in a Miraidon deck, and yeah, you get Miraidon as well, but like this, it's not really a deck in and of itself. It is a tech card that they've slapped into a deck that doesn't really play all that well or have much utility outside of being a one-off tech card. So yeah, that one was kind of disappointing. And then the most recent drops, which on paper are good. I love the idea of having a future archetype and an ancient archetype, but they chose the wrong Pokemon here. For the ancient ones, like you could have used it as a foundational piece for Ancient Box with the Baby Roaring Moon or Raging Bolt EX, and we got none of those things. We got Sandy Shocks and Koraidon EX, and neither of those have seen any real competitive play. And then the future box is kind of even worse, where we get Iron Valiant and Miraidon EX, the Dragon one, and there's pretty much no way to turn that into a competitive deck right now. Future box doesn't really exist as a thing, and the only future Pokemon that are really competitively viable right now are Iron Hands EX and Iron Thorns EX, and neither of those are in the box. So I feel like both of these are a missed opportunity. Before we make these predictions, I do want to make one disclaimer here, is that there are certain deck archetypes that I think are worthy of a League battle deck. Now, the League battle deck is Pokemon's most competitively viable pre-constructed decks, and they come with 6 holo foil cards versus the deluxe battle decks 3. And I think there are certain archetypes that would work better, and I think that players would want in that archetype rather than a deluxe battle deck. So something like a Raging Bolt EX with the Ogerpons, or Dragapult, and maybe even Terapagos, I think are just a tier above Deluxe battle decks, and I would not put them in this spot. I think players would be disappointed if they got a Deluxe battle deck of Raging Bolt, because you really want to see it as a League battle deck. So while I'm taking those out of consideration, I think there are so many good decks just below that that could fit this spot, and that's what I'm going to focus on today. Trying to predict what Deluxe battle decks are coming next is a fool's errand. If the Pokemon Company is willing to put Ninetales EX in a Deluxe battle deck, this really could be anything. So instead of this being a prediction, this is more of my wish list for what a Deluxe battle deck could be. And at the top of my list is Gholdengo EX. I think this is a fantastic card. Even before its most recent run of top 8s in competitive events, like in major tournaments, Gholdengo of late has been awesome, and I think in the Surging Sparks meta, its stock is going to rise even higher. But even before then, I think that Gholdengo would have made a fantastic Deluxe battle deck because it has a great ability that helps it draw cards, it has a great attack that can one-hit KO anything, and it can be reasonably built within the limitations of a Deluxe battle deck. Now, you're not going to get all of the holo foil cards that support Gholdengo EX, but I think if you get 3 Gholdengo EX, that is a solid foundation for a competitive Gholdengo deck. So I would love to see Gholdengo be a Deluxe battle deck. I think it fits that sort of niche just below, like Gholdengo. I mean, Gholdengo might have played itself into a point where maybe it's actually deserving of a League battle deck. I don't necessarily think it's more deserving than some of the other decks I've picked to be at the top, like a Raging Bolt or a Dragapult, but I think Gholdengo is like right there, and if we can't get it as a League battle deck, I think a Deluxe battle deck would be a fantastic place to give players that Gholdengo EX. And I should also note that Gholdengo is going to be rotating in the spring of 2026, so this spring drop is probably the final year you can make a pre-constructed deck with Gholdengo EX. So if we're not going to get a League battle deck for it, then I would love to see it as a Deluxe battle deck instead. I will admit, the likelihood of Cerulege EX being the next Deluxe battle deck is very low. Based on my very loose understanding of Pokemon's production lead times, we've seen with League battle decks that it takes 8 months to a year for them to take a deck archetype that's out in the wild and turn it into a pre-constructed deck. I think Cerulege hasn't had enough time in the oven yet, but I think this would be a fantastic pick for a Deluxe battle deck at some point. I think it has a really great first attack that's really easy to use. It only uses 1 energy, and it has the potential to one-hit KO anything. It's a very easy archetype to play, and you can reasonably build it within the limitations of Deluxe battle decks. Again, a deck with 3 Cerulege EX is a fantastic start. And based on where Pokemon has been heading, with the most recent drop being like Ancient Pokemon and Future Pokemon, I wouldn't be surprised if the next drop is actually 2 Stellar Terra Pokemon. And if they're going to go that route, I think Cerulege is a fantastic choice. If they're not worried about using the Deluxe battle decks to promote their Stellar mechanic, then can I suggest Archaludon EX? I've had a ton of fun playing Archaludon EX of late, and I think it makes for a fantastic Deluxe battle deck, because if you're looking for something that is a little easier to play, Archaludon's awesome. It has a great ability that makes it very easy to charge up and attack. It does solid damage, maybe like a little too short, but there are ways of fixing that, whether it's Starmie, Maximum Belt, or other ways of modifying damage to make it hit a little harder. But even in the context of just building a pre-constructed Archaludon deck, you are getting a Pokemon that can charge itself up and attack really easily. So I love the idea of Archaludon in this Deluxe battle deck spot, and just building the deck with 3 Archaludons is totally fine. And again, you're not going to get the extra support Pokemon like a Squawkabilly or a Pheasantipity, but I think a Archaludon deck with 3 Archaludon is a fantastic starting point. Teal Mask Ogerpon is not really an attacking Pokemon in competitive play, but I think it would be a fantastic addition to the Deluxe battle deck line. You are getting that fantastic Teal Dance ability that lets you attach a grass energy and then draw an extra card, and you can chain them together with multiple Ogerpons. And yes, you could theoretically attack with Teal Mask Ogerpon. And in the context of Deluxe battle decks fighting one another, this attack actually is not that bad. Doing 30 damage plus 30 more damage for each energy attached to both active Pokemon, you're going to be doing some decent damage in a casual environment while also charging yourself up really easily. But the reason I like Teal Mask Ogerpon in this spot is that it gives you a sneaky way of getting an Ogerpon line for another deck. Maybe you're building Raging Bolt and we don't get that League Battle deck. You at least get the Ogerpons as sort of that support engine for a Raging Bolt deck. And there will be other decks in the future, like maybe you're building Hydrapple's a bad example because Hydrapple's not particularly strong. But there are other decks that will use Teal Mask Ogerpon as that sort of draw engine and energy acceleration engine. And if we're not going to get decks of those, at least we get Ogerpon in a deluxe battle deck where it still kind of works as a self-contained deck, but also can be used to augment something else. Iron Thorns EX might be a bit of a reach for this final pick, but I do think it has some merits to it. I think for one, it is a deck that only has 5 hollow foil cards in it, 4 Iron Thorns and 1 Ace Spec, and you're going to get 3 out of the 5 cards in a deluxe battle deck. And because of that, you just get so much of a competitive build out of the gate that I kind of don't want to ignore that. And Iron Thorns has been a maybe not the most popular archetype, but it is a deck that has proven its worth in competitive play. It has multiple top finishes, including it's the reigning world champion. And yes, there was some stuff that happened in the World Championships this year that have people arguing about whether Iron Thorns should have won the whole thing, but Iron Thorns won the whole thing, and it has had top placements since then. So it's not like Iron Thorns is a bad deck. It's a very strong, annoying deck. I think its annoyingness might make it too overpowered for casual play, but I think that Iron Thorns would be awesome as a deluxe battle deck. Ultimately, we have no idea where Pokemon is going to go next with their deluxe battle decks, but my hopes and dreams, whether they pick the ones that I have recommended or they go in another direction, I just hope that the Pokemon Company picks more competitively viable archetypes for this deluxe battle deck spot. Again, with the League battle decks only getting 2 of those a year, there are so many other good decks that could get a pre-constructed deck that Pokemon just hasn't been picking of late with this deluxe battle deck line, and this is a great opportunity to give players at least deluxe battle deck lines of other competitively viable decks. But for now, I gotta get going. Thank you so much for watching. Are there any archetypes that you think would be worthy of a deluxe battle deck line? Let me know in the comments below. But for now, I gotta get going. Thank you so much for watching. You can find me on all the things: YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram at InThirdPerson. You can find me on Twitch at InThirdPerson, where I stream the Pokemon trading card game every Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And check out the website, InThirdPerson.com, for more articles and videos on video games, board games, and other nerdy pursuits. So until the next one, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.